Hello fellow makeup lovers, how are you guys doing today? I am super excited for this video because I thought it'd be fun to sit down and discuss some of the best color stories when it comes to eyeshadow palettes. There's so many palettes out there, but there's just a few that go above and beyond when it comes to being unique, inspiring, and just having that certain je ne sais quoi. So I thought it'd be fun to talk about that today. I actually saw my friend Angelica Nyqvist recently do a video like this, so I'll link it down below, and I also know Annette's Makeup Corner did one a few months back, so I'll link hers as well. And if you are new to my channel, hello, I'm so happy to have you here. My name is Amy. I love talking about indie makeup brands on my channel, and actually all of the palettes I have to talk about are from indie brands, so the best color stories for indie brand eyeshadow palettes. If you enjoy that type of content, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Now let's go ahead and jump right on in. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and start off with the Lunar Beauty Moonspell palette just because that is what I have on my eyes today. I actually filmed this entire look with like spooky themed products, and it's a tutorial for my Patreon, but I love this palette and it was the reason I decided to go ahead and try Lunar Beauty, and I'm not mad about it. I really love their products. You know when you get that feeling and you're like, oh my god, I need to sneeze, but then you like can't sneeze. Anyways, Lunar Beauty is owned by Manny MUA, so here's what the palette looks like. This palette's funny because it's hard to show its true colors, but I feel like this is basically it, like the palette leaning away from the light. There's an entire row of like blues and greens. There's a row of neutrals that kind of connect the row of blues and greens to the row of purples. I really love the formulas in this palette overall. The only shade I don't like is this one here. That one's a little bit of a dud. It's very sheer. I love the shimmer options, and I feel like this is one of those palettes that you can go super incredibly bold, purple or green or both, or you can do very soft looks as well. Even today, like I'm wearing all purple and green, but I feel like it turned out very soft just depending on how you use it. And overall, I just still feel super inspired when I look at this palette. I'm pretty sure I have a first impression, a review, and a 3 looks video already up on my channel from a while back when I first got it, so I'll try and leave any videos that coordinate to the products I'm talking about today down below. Okay, so the next palette I have to mention is the Douce Palette by Juvias Place. I always feel like I pronounced that wrong, but I'm not sure if this is available anymore. I'll link it if it is, but I feel like this was limited edition, which makes me sad because I feel like this is the most unique color story that Juvias Place has ever done. Here's what it looks like, and it's funny. Oh man, I just got lipstick all over my nail. I think this is funny because this is one of 2 palettes in this video that I said I wasn't gonna buy because I didn't like the color story, but I came around and I love this color story so much. At first I thought it was ugly, but it is so beautiful and perfect, and I love the options of mattes you have here. I love the pops of color. Again, I think I kind of gravitate towards palettes where you can go very bold and you can also go very soft. I just love like the pinky tones here. Those definitely are some of my favorite, and then like the pop metallic green. I just feel like this color story again is extremely unique. I can't think of anything else like it, and I feel like it's inspiring, and I really love being able to look at a 9-pan palette and just feel like there's so many looks, like the limit does not exist to the amount of looks that you could create with this color story and not end up with a bunch of looks that look like the same, if that makes sense. I just love this one. This next one, I actually hate the formula of this palette with a passion, but I've kept it because I love the color story so much. I just can't not mention it. This is the Ace Beauté Classical Paradise palette. I just find the mattes in here really hard to work with, but I think that this is one of the prettiest, that's my hair, one of the prettiest neutral palettes without having a single like plain brown in it. All of the browns here like have like a really rich kind of like red plummy undertone. There's like yellows, oranges, greens, silver, which I think is such a fun pop in here. I just love this color story overall so much. I think it's so fun and fall, and if this was a good formula, like a formula that I liked, I should say, because you know, personal preference, if it was a formula that I like, this would probably be a holy grail palette to me. It has the like soft satiny yellow, which is one of my favorite shades to be in palettes, and I feel like you could go super warm with this, you could go super grungy. I feel like there's options to be able to go softer, you could go bronzier, you could even do a little bit more of a cool toned eye, so I just feel like this is so pretty. And I rarely hear people talk about this ever, and I don't know if it's just because their experience was the same about the formula, but color story is on point. But to be fair, Ace Beauté overall has really great color stories. I just feel a little hesitant to spend my money on their formulas. Okay, next I have one quad I had to mention, and this is something that took me by surprise. This is the Nomad Cosmetics Malibu. I feel like I just said that super weird. Cosmetics. This is the Nomad Cosmetics Malibu Surf Shack palette, and this is what it looks like. It's just a super cute little quad, and I love this color story. It is so unique. There's two grungy greens here, one that's a little bit more mid-tone and one that's a little bit deeper, so I feel like you can get a decent amount of depth out of this palette. And then there is a pastel light green. I just feel like the mattes in here are so fun. I guess this color story isn't as like, oh, I can do a million different looks with it and they'll all look different, but I just feel like the grungy greens with the pop of pastel is very, very unique. There's a shade here that reminds me a lot of MAC Nylon, so I mean, you could put it all over your lid, or you could do an all matte look and just throw it on the inner corner or on the brow bone. And overall, I just feel like these three matte shades together is so fun and so unique, and I kind of love like the grungy with pastel. Oh man, I didn't even notice that I did that before. Wow. Don't hate me for this one. I had to include one like rainbow palette option, but there's a reason behind it. I know rainbows are not that unique. As Aniela Kanika says all the time, the rainbow was curated for you. I agree, but in this case, I just had to mention it because this is my favorite pastel color story. This is the Menagerie Pastel Pup, and I just love the shades that are in here. I will be honest, like I've said a million times, I don't really care about the bottom row all that much, but these 9 pastel shades are just perfection when it comes to a color story. I feel like they work so well together, and they just like, again, with the like limitless options, I feel like there's so many different shades that just like perfectly blend into one another, and you can go so many different routes with this palette. I just love this pastel color story, and I wanted to include it here because I get questions all the time like, what's your favorite pastels? And my favorite pastel formula would be the Terra Moon's matte pastels singles, or the Shroud Cosmetics Creepy Cute palette. That's my favorite formula when it comes to pastels, but when it comes to getting all the pastel colors that I want in one go, it would definitely be these 9 shades together. I just love them so much. So an underrated palette that I wanted to mention is from Maybe Cosmetics, and this is the Take Me to Paris palette. They have an entire Take Me To collection, and they have a bunch of beautiful color stories, but this one is my favorite. I actually wonder how they're doing because I feel like they haven't released anything in a hot minute, but this palette is so cute. I mean, the packaging is just adorable in general if you like kind of like girly Paris vibes. Wish I was in Paris. I'm not, but it's fine because I have this palette. So here's what the color story looks like. There's pops of like pink, but they're kind of like more muted rosy tones. There's a pop of green, and then there's also some neutrals as well, and the names are super cute. There's Bon Appetit, Bisou Bisou, which I believe means kiss kiss, and then there's like mini macaroon, which I wish I had a macaroon right now. Again, I don't because I'm not in Paris. Anyways, I just think that this is such a cute little color story. I feel like it's a very wearable color story. Overall, it's definitely more on the soft side, but I just love the pops of pink and the pops of green. I guess it's kind of like the baby sister, like more like wearable version of the Douce palette. Actually, I feel like from Juvia's Place, they do have a little bit in common. I know I just said that there's nothing like the Juvia's Place one, but I could see some things, like just little pieces, but overall, I think the looks are very different on the eyes. Okay, so next I cannot help but mention these 2 palettes. I love them so, so much. This is the Melt Cosmetics Vida and Muerte palettes, and I feel like these are so unique. The Vida palette, when I first got it, I thought it was beautiful, but I didn't realize how unique it was. I think what makes this really different is there's a lot of palettes out there now that have like a green and an orange color story that goes together, but they're normally more on the grungy side. Like they're like grungy greens, mustardy greens, rich, warm, orangey tones. But the thing about this palette is that it's actually that color story, but very lively. Not to be punny, but it just is a very, very bright version. I love how bright the greens are in here. I love how bright the orange and the yellow tones are, which this one is definitely like a green, but I feel like you can use it as a yellow with these shades and kind of get away with it. And then it's also interesting that there's like this little tiny pop of neutral, which this shade here is more of an olive, but I just feel like overall this color story is very, very unique. And honestly, I would probably mention the Melt Cosmetics Gemini palette if I still owned it, because I feel like even though there's been a lot of things that have duplicated it, it just has something about it. Honestly, if Melt Cosmetics has a good Black Friday sale, I might end up repurchasing that palette because it's like a hole in my heart. Then the other one is the Muerte palette, and this one I just love as well. I mean, I feel like it just screams unique, like the pops of like minty, the blue, the red. It's like a dark, grungy, rainbow-esque palette, while also not having the entire rainbow, but kind of having the vibes. I feel like I'm terrible at explaining why I love color stories, but this one is so, so pretty. And I do have a full week of the Muerte palette and a full week of the Vida palette where I did 5 looks with each, in case you want any inspo. Okay, so this next palette is the recent love of my life, and it is the Cinegrace Enduring Love palette. I love this palette. It's enduring. So here's what it looks like, and this is the other palette I was mentioning that when I first saw it, I was like, I don't really love the color story. I don't really see it. I'm not gonna buy it. And then I bought it like just a few months ago, and I absolutely love it. I feel like this is the prettiest cool toned dream palette. This is the light version. They also have a deep version as well. I love that this has like this top row which has like pinky rosy tones, and it does have a little pop of color. This shade Romeo here is just so beautiful on the inner corner or as a highlight if you have fair light skin. I love that shade so, so much. And then this middle row here has so many beautiful gray, cool toned options. I've done the shade Passion in my crease and the shade Boaz in my outer V so many times for a smoky eye, and I just love how they look together. And then there's again like a little pop of blue, which I think is fun. I actually don't use the pops of color as much in this palette. I just love the neutrals so much. I think that it is a very inspiring color story. And then the bottom row, there's some more neutral shades. There's a pop of purple, and there is the most beautiful silvery shade ever. It just looks so intense on the lid. I love putting that all over the lid. That's probably why I don't use the pops of color as much, is just because this shade like outshines everything. I'm just like, that one every day. So I just love this. I think that it's definitely a color story more for neutral lovers, but if you do love a good cool toned eye and you don't want just your typical cool tones, this one is really, really fun to me. And honestly, I've been thinking of doing like a so you want to try indie palettes but you only love neutrals kind of video. I don't know how exactly I'll title it, but if you are an indie lover but also like a mostly neutral lover, let me know if you'd like to see a video like that, and I can give some recommendations of my favorite neutrals from indie brands. Next, actually, another neutral palette from an indie brand, although this one's not your typical neutrals, obviously, because it's in this video. This is the Tammy Tenuka / Sigil inspired. They go by both names. It's very confusing. I think it's called the Peaceful Earth Dragons palette. The name is in Russian on the back, but I'm pretty sure it's Peaceful Earth Dragon. And I love this color story so, so much. I just think it's absolutely beautiful. This was one of those things where I bought this palette because I wanted to try the brand, and I saw the color story online. I was like, oh yeah, it's pretty, it's nice, I like it. But I wasn't like, that's gonna be my favorite color story, but I do absolutely love it. I feel like this kind of has like your grungy typical tones with like a little bit of green. There's like a mustardy yellow. There's the shifting shade that has like an orangey base with like green and gold and teal reflex, and I feel like you see that in quite a lot of palettes, those kind of that combo there. But the thing about this one is that I feel like it's like more of like a smoky, sexy version of like a green grungy palette. It just has like a little bit more depth to it, and I love the different satin bronzy shades. I just feel like this is a very sophisticated, sexy eye. Like that is the whole vibe that I get from this palette. This shade right here is the most beautiful bronze shadow. It's more of like a pigment that was pressed down rather than just like your typical pressed shadow is how I would describe it. It's more loose, but it looks so intense all over the lid, and I just feel like it's so nice. I didn't plan on doing the one video that's like choosing different palettes for different occasions, but this one is definitely like a good date night palette in my opinion. Or if you just love grungy darker neutrals, I think it's a really, really cool palette, and I love the color story. It gives me something different, which I wasn't originally expecting from it. I think I'm like looking around. When I did my thumbnail picture, I dropped all of the palettes because I sneezed. That's just who I am, but I think this is the last one I have to mention. This is the Copacetic Cosmetics and Basket Case Beauty collaboration, and I love this color story. I think they did such an amazing job on this. It's so pretty. And it's very unique because there's just a few pops of mattes, and then there's some shimmers here, which are all light shimmers, but they have different shifts to them. There's a blue, a green, a gold, and a pink. And then I just feel like the matte options in here are also different, but they work really well together. And this is just one of those color stories where every time I look at it, I'm just like so inspired by the placement and just what you could do with this palette. I think that even just looking at it in the palette, it looks like something very unique and different. I love that there's some lighter shades, there's some depth going on, and then this rosy shade, although it's not your like typical neutral shadow, I do feel like you can use that through the crease and any of the shimmers to get more of a light look. So that's everything. Oh wait, oh, I found one that I dropped. Oh, I almost forgot this one. This is the Collidos Electro Turquoise palette, and I just had to mention this one. I know Angie mentioned it too, but this is definitely the most unique color story that I think Collidos has done. I just love the pop of orange and blue. I think they contrast each other so beautifully. I feel like brands would probably be a little more scared to put these two colors together because on the eyes, if you put blue and orange together and you don't know exactly what you're doing, they can end up muddying and turning into a little bit of a mess. But if you keep that in mind and you either do like a cut crease so they don't mix, and you do blue on the lid and orange on the lower lash line, or orange on the lid and blue on the lower lash line, or you just kind of keep them a little bit more separate, they can be so beautiful and so impactful. So I absolutely love this color story. I love the shimmer options. I love the matte options. I just think that for being only 6 shades, it is so, so nice and very unique. Like I said, I just feel like blue and orange are not something that brands typically put together. I do have a 2 looks video and review, I believe, that I can link down below in case you're interested. So this time for real, that is everything. I really hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.